So we're sitting here in one of the many Social Bite shops here in Glasgow. First of all, Ewan, could you tell us what you actually do for Social Bite?
My job with Social Bite is everything that we do in the community. So obviously Social Bite's a not-for-profit organisation. Our main remit is to work with Glasgow's homeless community as well as Edinburgh and Aberdeen. So I do everything that we do within the community. So I run our Monday and Friday evening suppers, where we have 2 hours where people can come in and enjoy the warmth of the cafe and have some warm food. We have live music sometimes, and we have a lot of volunteers who are very engaging and then give people time to speak about anything that they want to speak about. And we also signpost people to other services that they might need. So my role is to run that side of things, as well as getting training opportunities for people, working with other partners with homelessness, and taking on volunteers through qualifications and things like that.
So I know that you work with many partners across the city. Could you just give us an idea of the many people that you work with on homelessness?
We work closely with the Simon community, in particular their hub, because a lot of what we do is providing opportunities for people to self-refer. We don't necessarily take everyone through the tribunal or the advocacy stage, but we know the people that do. So we can send people to the Simon community for that, as well as last week I was working with Shelter for a woman that was fleeing a domestic situation. I work closely with shelters that are housing people in emergency accommodation overnight, and other people that can possibly provide training to some of the people that come in. So Glasgow Calvin College have been really good at working with us on that basis as well. Yeah.
I've heard that there are no specific night shelters for women and that there's a serious deficiency for the needs of women. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, in my experience so far, that appears to be the case. I don't mean that there's not any emergency accommodation for women at all. It's just that there's nothing specific for women. I know that the emergency night shelter run by the Mission has space for women overnight, but in my experience, a lot of women dealing with homelessness are fleeing domestic situations and are extremely vulnerable. And obviously putting them in the same space as a room that's dominated by men, some of which may be intoxicated or under influence, puts them in a very vulnerable situation, and may, in some cases, mean that someone will not accept that service because it would cause too much fear and anxiety for them.
So what do you think that central government could be doing a bit more of to help cities like Glasgow, who are clearly doing quite a great deal to look after homeless people across the city?
Throughout Glasgow, there's obviously a need for more housing. It seems that always seems to be the case, is that there's just not enough houses, really. That would deal with the issue in some way. I think there obviously needs to be people that are dealing with homelessness. In my experience, a lot of them have suffered quite severe trauma. Mental health is obviously a lot of people dealing with depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, personal trauma, as well as often 2 or 3 close family members dying one after the other. This is something that's a really significant thing for someone to deal with, and that can lead to them getting into a situation of not having the energy or ability to pay bills. They get into arrears. So I think if someone is in this situation in their own tenancy, and they get into that position of no longer coping with upholding their tenancy, I think that person needs additional support rather than being put onto the street. At that point, they need to have greater patience. You need more patience with that person, and you also need to understand that nobody wants to be in that situation. Nobody is consciously getting themselves into arrears. So to penalise someone for something they're doing unconsciously just seems to me the wrong way to go about it. And once someone has left their tenancy and is in the homeless community, the cycle starts, and it can get incredibly difficult to get somebody out of that cycle once they've been in a period of homelessness for a few months.